Boker Tov. So over the past week, we discussed the concept of Yom Tov Sheni, second day Yom Tov outside of Israel, the background to it, the contemporary application, and where 2 days is kept across the world. Now we need to move on to the whole concept of traveling from one country to the other, from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz and vice versa. What happens when a person does that? How long can they keep 1 day, 2 days, and so on and so forth? All of this, B'ezrat Hashem, will discuss. But let's start with Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz. A person who lives in Israel and travels to outside of Israel for Yom Tov, what's his status? What do they need to do, etc. So it's clear in the Gemara, the person who travels from Israel to outside of Israel and he travels in order to live there, leishtakeya, we'll discuss how long living is, but for all intents and purposes, he's moving for a fixed period of time. Then that person needs to keep 2 days Yom Tov because he is part of that community now, even though he originates from Israel. Sometimes you hear people saying, I'm Israeli, I only have to keep 1 day. It doesn't work like that. If you were born in Israel, lived in Israel, but now you moved to Chutz La'aretz, and you have a residence here, and this is where you're living, and this is your life and your community, then certainly there's no question about it, 2 days must be observed. Again, we'll discuss how long that is, but generally, if you moved over and you're living outside of Israel, you have to keep 2 days. However, if you are only visiting, so you have left Israel and you're visiting Chutz La'aretz, seeing family, whatever it may be, holiday, etc., and then you are intending to come back to Israel in the very near future, so it's just a visit, so then you don't need to keep 2 days Yom Tov because you are a Ben Eretz Yisrael, because you are an Israeli, even though for a period of time you are in Chutz La'aretz, but that's a very short period of time, and it's just outside of, you're just visiting for a bit of time, and so if you still retain the status of being Israeli, you only have to keep 1 day Yom Tov. And if you are visiting a place where there is no Jewish community, then you are allowed to do melacha. So if you are gone on holiday to some island and there's no community there, no Jewish community there, then you don't have to keep anything second day Yom Tov because you've just visited for a short period of time. You still have the status of Ben Eretz Yisrael, and so you only have to keep 1 day. However, if you have gone to Chutz La'aretz and in Chutz La'aretz you are within the Techum, you are living within a Jewish community, however small that community is, but there is a community, so then it's forbidden for a person to do melacha, certainly publicly, because then people will come to be mizalzel, they'll come to disregard second day Yom Tov because they see other Jewish people only keeping 1 day Yom Tov. And so therefore it's clear in Shulchan Aruch that in a public setting it is forbidden to do melacha. The Beit Yosef was of the opinion that although it's forbidden to do any melacha publicly on second day Yom Tov if you're an Israeli, but privately, the Hadrei Hadarim, when no one can see you, you are allowed to do melacha, because the whole idea is that people don't see and people think that you are not keeping second day Yom Tov, and that will come to have an effect on them. But if you are doing this privately, then there's no issue. However, the vast majority of the poskim disagree with this. Certainly, the Ashkenazi poskim, the Mishnah Berurah rules clearly that both the Farhesia and Betzina, both publicly and privately, it's forbidden to do melacha. And even though the Beit Yosef said this, the Hida and other of the Sfaradi poskim disagreed strongly and said that even privately it's forbidden. And even Hacham Ovadia concludes that a person should be mahmir. In the first instance, a person should be stringent and shouldn't do melacha in private, even though they have the status of being an Israeli. For tefillah, then you even though you're not meant to do melacha, you still pray the weekday tefillah. And in fact, the Pri Hadash Abi Haskael de Silva, who was born in Italy, in Livorno but moved to Israel, he writes that he himself, he traveled to Egypt, he was there for Yom Tov, and what he did is, at home, he put his tefillin on, he said the Shema with his tefillin, and then he put his Yom Tov clothes on, and he went to the synagogue and he prayed with them, and he took part in the Shahrit, even though it's a weekday Shahrit for him. Nonetheless, you can still take part in the tefillah. Of course, You can't say Hallel and you can't pray Musaf because you have no obligation because it's a weekday, and therefore you can't pray Hallel, but you can join in with the Kahal whilst they're singing the Hallel without the Beracha, because at the end of the day it's Tehillim. And so to summarize, a Ben Eretz Israel, a person from Israel who has moved to outside of Israel, has to keep 2 days. If they are visiting Israel, if they're visiting outside of Israel, then if they are in a place where there is no Jewish community, they do not have to keep anything and can go about life as usual, as a regular weekday. If, however, they are within a Jewish community, which is what happens the vast majority of times when people leave Israel to go to Chutz La'aretz for Yom Tov, then certainly publicly it's forbidden to do melacha, and even privately a person shouldn't do so, both Ashkenazim and Sfaradim, but they should put tefillin at home and join in the tefillah in the synagogue and pray together with them, and take part in whatever they are obligated